This week I've been trying to catch up on things after my trip up north, and is this true? Having a relaxing holiday is a lot of work. I wanted to do something kind of simple, and I thought I'd do some random blob head creature thingies that I've shown here from time to time. But then, wouldn't you know it, I had this idea and made a simple thing needlessly complicated. Complicated, but kind of fun. I had this idea of creating these blobs with a mini printing press where I could rearrange the blobs into different configurations. Oh, sure, I could have just drawn random splotches on paper like I usually do, but gotta take things to the next level, right? Is this necessary? Absolutely not. Not at all. Is it helpful? Maybe? Maybe it's helpful. You know, if you wanted to standardize a series of shapes to work together as a set, well, this might be one way to do it. The first thing I needed to do was to decide on some blob shapes that would be varied, but would be able to be moved around in different ways. I decided to cut out pieces of paper to see if I could do that. I just guessed at what might work as far as shapes, and it ended up being a pretty good assortment of blobs that could be moved around in a number of different square patterns. And this is exactly what I was after. I could print a number of different patterns that would end up still working well as a series. I had some rectangular shaped pieces, a square, some dog legs, and I came up with a handful of different arrangements that I would be able to fit into the square printing press. I'm sure the possibilities weren't endless, but having a half dozen or so would work out grand. After deciding on the rough shapes, I needed to carve those into a soft printing block. You could use a harder block, of course, but for these simple shapes like this, the soft stuff would work out just fine. I used an X-Acto knife to carve out my shapes, but you could use other carving tools if you happen to have them. So I cut out these geometrical shapes, and after doing that, I would make the image, the actual printed image, a little bit more organic, a little more blob-like, if you will. So you'll see that I'm cutting some of the depth off of the edges, and I will round off the corners a bit, and I will be left with a little bit of a blob shape. The fun thing with this is that you could do essentially anything. I went for something very basic so that I could do more things with the shapes, but you could make more intricate designs or vary the shapes and, maybe leave them geometric, who knows. Whatever you'd like to do, it's all good and it'll work out. For this press to work out the way I envisioned it, the little pieces here would have to be interchangeable. So I decided I would use a self-adhesive Velcro. This way I could get the blobs to stay where I wanted them to stay temporarily as I did the print, but then I'd be able to move them around for another print, maybe do different colors or different arrangements. And this worked out pretty well. The one thing I noticed though is that the adhesive didn't adhere as well to the pink printing block there, but it's sufficient. If you wanted to make something a little bit more permanent, you could apply some glue, I bet. Now, I don't have a lot of printing equipment or inks, and I know that there are better ways of doing this. But for my purposes with what I had, I decided to ink each color with a separate printing pass. One thing I could have and probably should have done was to build a jig to center the paper and the block, but instead I just eyeballed it and Since I was working on a square piece of paper, I could do that fairly well. And I did this because I figured this whole type of art is best if not taken too seriously, and some unexpected variations or overlaps could only add more character. Or that's what I'm telling myself. After I build a jig, I'll extol the value of the exactness of that. So you see how true to my principles I am when it comes to art. I only have a few printing inks on hand, so I just used what I had. I actually ended up kind of liking this combination of purple, orange, and I'll eventually do gold here. One thing to keep in mind is that if you print with a dark ink, drawing with a dark pen over that may not give you much contrast to see the design that you drew. You could, in that case, use a lighter ink or a paint pen, or just choose colors that work well with the pen that you're using. And when you've finished with one set of colored blobs, you can rearrange them and do another print. So that can be kind of fun. But the really fun part is to ink in some interesting characters. Now, I don't generally plan these things out. You could, though, maybe have a theme for all the blobs or something. I've done things like that, a page of skulls or dinosaurs or whatever. And I really encourage this sort of art play. It's fast, it's simple, it's fun. But one of the things I really like is that you might end up creating something that you really like, and you can give it a name and a backstory, and you could even make a profile page for them if you wanted to. And you know what? I kind of want to.
Let's get to know Jack. What are your hobbies?
Competitive carrot eating contests. Braying at 3 a.m. Dodging thrown alarm clocks at 3 a.m.
Do you collect anything?
Broken alarm clocks that neighbors give me at 3 a.m.
What is on your bucket list?
Find out if I'm eligible for unicorn insurance. Win the Kentucky Derby disguised as a weird-looking horse.
A little about Squivel. What are you passionate about?
Collecting lint from other people's pockets, noticing the subtle differences between various types of moss within a 2-foot radius of my home.
What is your favorite childhood memory?
The day I discovered I could retract into my shell, take a month-long nap. It was like a dream.
What is your useless talent?
I can grow algae on my shell in the shape of famous historical figures. Catch me if you can, Rod Stewart.
Facts you need to know about Aurum Spectre. What makes you unique?
I can possess coin-operated vending machines and dispense free candy. I've witnessed the rise and fall of countless civilizations, but I measure time in gumball flavors.
What skill would you like to learn?
The ability to taste candy again. Being a skull does have its drawbacks. I have a deep desire to taste the rainbow.
What is your strange, irrational fear?
That one day all coin-operated machines will switch to contactless payment.
Here's what you need to know about Daryl McWidchop. What do you wish more people understood about you?
I do more than chop wood. I can suck leaves with my vacuum arm attachment. I'm a lumberjack, but I wear a tie. I'm not the smartest acorn in the toolbox, but I'm a walking contradiction, which makes me very interesting.
What is the strangest food combination you enjoy?
For my money, nothing beats pine needle and marshmallow sandwiches. The resinous tang of the fresh pine needles and the pillowy sweetness of the marshmallow make for a surprising flavor experience.
What actor would you choose to play you in your biopic?
Without a doubt, The Rock. He is strong like me. but he would need a vacuum arm prosthetic for authenticity.
Thank you for your information, Mr. Woodchop. I'd love to know if you have a name or a backstory for any of these guys. Please do tell me. Don't be shy. And one last thing I wanted to do, you know those little free libraries in the neighborhood? Is that a thing outside the United States? Well, there's one that is for art and art supplies here nearby, and I thought I'd drop these off there and maybe it'll brighten someone's day. I don't know. Maybe so. If this video has brightened your day, I'd be very happy if you give this video a like, maybe share this printing idea with a friend, and subscribe maybe. In any case, thank you so much for checking out this video, and I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.